Liam Lawson is a key name in the F1 driver market. Since his exceptional performances for AlphaTauri last year, the Kiwi's future has been discussed extensively. Although the consensus to begin 2024 was that his promotion to Red Bull's second team, RB, was just a formality, doubts have emerged in recent months. However, Helmut Marko insists Lawson is still part of Red Bull's plans, and not only that, but has recently revealed a bombshell move that might see Ricciardo retired for the second time. Now, 5 months ago, it seemed like the most secure seat in Red Bull's Formula 1 lineup. An 8-time race winner was in reserve at RB, providing an insurance policy for the A-team. Danni Ricciardo, well known to Red Bull, was even cited by team principal Christian Horner as his favourite driver in the team's history. Horner played a key role in bringing Ricciardo back midway through last season as a replacement for Nyck de Vries, ending the Dutchman's brief stint at AlphaTauri. Horner believed he could reignite the spark he once saw in the Australian driver. Amid a tumultuous few months for Red Bull at the start of the year, following an investigation into Horner after an internal complaint, Ricciardo's position appeared secure. Max Verstappen's father Jos had hinted that his son might leave the team, with Mercedes eager to sign the world champion. In this scenario, Ricciardo offered Red Bull a fallback option if Verstappen did depart, or at least a stopgap while the team sought a long-term replacement. However, Verstappen's situation has since stabilised, and he's now expected to stay with the team for at least another season. Then there is Sergio Perez. If Ricciardo's role was to put pressure on the Mexican driver to perform, the results have been mixed. At the start of the year, Perez opened with 4 podiums in 5 races, but his form has since dipped somewhat alarmingly, although not enough to dissuade Red Bull from offering him a 2-year extension to his contract, taking him until the end of 2026. That obviously meant Ricciardo was out of the running for a seat in Red Bull, and barring another move away from the team, looks set to remain with RB. However, while teammate Yuki Tsunoda has also been handed a contract extension, there remains no offer on the table for Ricciardo, who turns 35 next week. It's easy to understand why, as his performances this season have been disappointing. Ricciardo was criticised by Jacques Villeneuve as part of Sky F1's coverage at the Canadian Grand Prix when the 1997 world champion asked, "Why is he still in F1?" The comment upset Ricciardo and his management, but it was hard to disagree with Villeneuve's frank reasoning. After the Spanish GP last weekend and another poor result of 15th, Ricciardo put on a brave face again and absolved himself of any blame. "It's a team sport, it's not an individual sport," he said. "It's not that you hug and comfort each other, but you bring each other together and you work and acknowledge that 15th is not fun, so we want to be better." When asked whether he's been forced to dig deeper than ever before, Ricciardo says he's up for the fight, although there was a hesitancy in his words, as he pointed out that everyone on the grid is now much more competitive. He added, "I'm definitely all in. I'm certainly putting everything into it to try and get everything out of it. It's not that I think back to 8 or 10 years ago and feel like it did come a little easier, but I also feel like just naturally, with more data now, more onboards, more sims, the field is tighter. I feel like every driver in the same car, maybe 10 years ago there is, I'm pulling this number out of my arse, but maybe a second between us where now it might be 5 tenths or something. So a bad day these days pays much more of a price than I feel it used to. So that's it, you just can't afford to have a bad day. From a technical side and feedback and that, I feel like I'm probably doing more than I ever have, but in a way that I'm enjoying. So maybe just with age, I'm enjoying this process more." Well, he might be enjoying it, but with only 1 finish in the points this season, those at Red Bull aren't sharing the same enthusiasm. In recent months, Red Bull has faced criticism for its driver selection, particularly the decision to retain Sergio Perez, which many view as overly conservative. With only 8 points in the last 4 rounds, Perez has not justified Red Bull's decision. An inevitable consequence of Perez's new contract was the increased scrutiny on Liam Lawson. With Yuki Tsunoda locked in for 2025, Lawson's only chance of joining VCARB would be to replace Daniel Ricciardo. Unfortunately for Lawson, Ricciardo's position at Faenza has appeared relatively secure until now. Despite his deficit to teammate Tsunoda, the 34-year-old has received steady support from Christian Horner and Lauren Mekies. For many, Red Bull's previous comments about Ricciardo signal bad news for Lawson. The Kiwi himself admitted to being uncertain about his position within the Red Bull setup. However, Helmut Marko has made some very clear statements about VCARB's future driver lineup. "The shareholders have made it known that it's a junior team and we have to act accordingly," he told Klein Zeitung. The goal was that he, Ricciardo, would be considered for Red Bull Racing with exceptional performances. That seat now belongs to Sergio Perez, so that plan is no longer valid. We have to put a young driver in there soon. That would be Liam Lawson. Well, until now, Red Bull's comments about the 22-year-old have been relatively non-committal. However, in classic fashion, Helmut Marko has spoken with complete transparency on the situation, shifting the consensus. His comments are undoubtedly positive for Lawson. Still, it must be said that until the contract is signed, nothing is guaranteed at Red Bull. In many cases, even a signed contract is not the end of the story. Time will tell if and when the Austrian squad follows through on Marko's word and offers Lawson an F1 contract. If they fail to offer him a deal, Lawson will be forced to explore other options. Not only for Lawson, but the upcoming weeks are crucial for the Honey Badger as well, as Liam Lawson eagerly awaits his chance after impressing in the 5 races he filled in for Ricciardo last year, while Ricciardo recovered from a broken hand suffered during practice for the Dutch GP. Lawson represents the future, while Ricciardo appears to be a shadow of the driver who impressively defeated Sebastian Vettel in equal machinery in 2014. Even if Ricciardo scores points in Austria and Silverstone, it may not be enough. There is a growing feeling that, having started the year in a comfortable position with a shot at driving for Red Bull, he now finds himself surplus to its requirements. Ricciardo's stint in the RB seat appears to be a brief one, primarily to evaluate him as a potential replacement for Perez. Now that this phase has passed, there seems to be no reason to keep Ricciardo in that seat. If Red Bull decides that Lawson will replace Ricciardo, it's likely Ricciardo will be gone after the summer break. The only factor that might extend Ricciardo's stay until the end of the year is the strong performances of Hudja and Iwasa, which could give Red Bull more time to decide who to promote. Both drivers seem to show more potential than Lawson, which Red Bull likely agrees with, or Lawson would have been promoted to Red Bull in the past. An in-depth analysis of Horner's drivers' decisions reveals a complex interplay of politics and performance considerations. Promoting Ricciardo after his troubled time at McLaren based solely on a few tests seems unusual. Additionally, categorically stating that a highly acclaimed driver like Tsunoda will never race for Red Bull suggests there are underlying factors at play. This could indicate a power struggle between Horner and Marko influencing these decisions. Since the only question in the Red Bull garage is who will be the best number 2 for Max, it would be interesting to see Ricciardo in Perez's seat for one race. Perez drives the best car on the grid but has been finishing poorly for several races. Would Ricciardo perform the same, worse or better if he was driving that car? The Constructors' Championship is not a lock for Red Bull this year, with Perez finishing behind the Ferraris. We've said it before, now it's more urgent with a threat from McLaren, Mercedes and Ferrari. A top team needs 2 performing cars, both consistently in the top 4 or 5 with at least one driver on the podium. Red Bull doesn't have this. Their car appears to have been optimised while others continue to develop. They may well get overtaken this season and almost certainly will next season unless a better performer than Perez is in the second car. So, do you think Ricciardo will retire once again, and this time probably permanently? Let us know in the comments down below, and we'll see you in the next video.